please just stop. What's up, family? We are back alive and in the flesh. At least we think we're alive. That's what we're going to talk about today. Life, death, heavy stuff. I know. But your boy Danny back reminding you that you're strong enough, you're beautiful enough, you're capable enough, which means you're good enough. And you're going to stay that way because you're going to eat meat and move weight and listen to Little Peep. Now, these might strike you as some funny philosophical questions, but nevertheless, here they are. What is really alive? What is really dead? And is meat really dead? Now, these aren't funny questions, and these aren't abstruse, and the answers aren't obvious. And it might surprise you to find out that, in fact, there is no universally, unequivocally agreed upon definition of life. And if there's no agreed upon definition of life, how could we possibly know what's dead? And so I think when vegans come across and say, which you will inevitably find them saying all over the place, that meat is dead and rotting and that they don't want to eat meat because it's dead and rotting, that it's not really that simple. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, for our purposes today, it's fine if you want to assume that death just is the cessation of all biological function, but that's not really what we're concerned with. What we're concerned with is measuring life or having a proxy for life, right? And whether it's even possible for a portion of something to be living. When a tree, a leaf falls down from a tree, does the leaf die the second that it leaves the tree? Where did the life go? Where did it retreat to? We're gonna have to let some of the mystery of life remain, however, because unlike food, which I have explicitly defined in another video of mine, I'm not gonna give you an explicit definition of life. Now we're gonna have to quibble because for vegans, it's always dead and rotting. Now, rotting is not the same thing as dying, right? Rotting is actually life feeding on life, or at least life feeding in one sense. It's just digestion in the most profound, natural, and animalistic sense. William Randolph Inge said that life, or that all of nature is actually a conjugation of the verb to eat in the active and passive. And that's all digestion is. That's all rotting is. And then there's a sense in which that's all nature is. It's just digestion. So that said, meat isn't rotting when you eat it. It's not rotting in your colon. I've also made a video that goes over that and dispels or dispenses with that myth as well. But with the preliminaries out of the way and our quibbling done, is meat really dead? Now, the answer to this question, right, on whether or not meat is really dead depends on how you determine whether or not there's a reasonable proxy to measure life. I think instinctively and intuitively that most people do. They know. And that proxy is hydration. In the context of biological organisms. Now, I think most people immediately and naively understand this is true when they think about the process of dehydration as the process of death or dying itself. You can see this happening, this process in real time to the elderly, to biomes, to organisms, to ecosystems, to entire planets, I'm sure. That's just what happens. And things become less fluid, stiffer, less mobile, drier, more arid, and then eventually they perish. And the Bible encodes this wisdom, at least for man, as from dust thou art, and to dust thou shalt return. But in the interim, while we're here, living, breathing, what are we? Well, we're water. If you look at the composition of the human body, it's primarily, at least 99% of it, is just 6 elements. That's carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, and oxygen. That's important. Less than 1% of it is composed of another 5 elements. But the overwhelming majority of the mass of these elements, right, are configured as water molecules. Up to 60% of the human adult body is water. According to H.H. Mitchell in the Journal of Biological Chemistry, the brain and heart are 73% water. The lungs are about 83% water. Skin contains 64% water unless it's all dried up and needing lotion, and kidneys 79% water, and that's water filtering water and maintaining your osmolarity. Even the bones are watery. This inert, inorganic mineral matrix, essentially, that's inside of your body that your muscles are tugging on that's dead, are 31% water. In addition to being primarily what we're composed of, water serves a really important number of essential functions, regulating body temperature, building materials, moving nutrients throughout the body, managing waste, shock absorption, and it's just really critical. And because of its chemical properties, it's just impossible for life to exist on Earth without it. So a few days of no water and you're dead. The only thing more important than that is oxygen. A few minutes of no oxygen and you're dead. So judging by this standard, right, this proxy, now that we understand how important water is for life and that we are essentially water, what is really and truly alive? What foods are really and truly alive? Prime rib or beef, chicken, fish, or very vegan wheat thins and let's say rice cakes, right? And I'm gonna take a teeny detour again, and I think you'll understand the answer to this question when I'm done. So if you pick up a box of food in air quotes, at the grocery store and look up the nutrition facts or look up the nutrition facts for real food on the internet, you're gonna notice that there's like a grams per serving, right? So when you look at the grams per serving breakdown, you count up the protein, the carbohydrates, the fat, they don't add up to the total grams per serving. So if I look at a serving of wheat thins here, for instance, in a single serving of wheat thins, there's 31 grams, which are composed of 5.1 grams of fat, 22 grams of carbs, 2.3 grams of protein. Now that adds up to 29.4 grams. There's a gram and a half missing there. Not a lot, but there's some missing. But when you look at something like prime rib at a 31.5 per gram, or 31.5 grams per serving, that's as close as I can get it, sorry. There's 8.5 grams of fat, 0 grams of carbs, right, on that low carb lifestyle, and 7 grams of protein. That only adds up to 15.5 grams. There's 16 grams that are unaccounted for in a serving of prime rib. You want to take a guess what those unaccounted for grams are? They're water. It's the amount of water in a serving by gram that's missing. Now, there's a few other things in there that we can ignore because it's just overwhelmingly water. So, if water is truly a proxy for life, and prime rib is much closer to water or more filled with water than wheat thins, that means that meat is life and wheat thins are death. Now, we know, in fact, that water is a proxy for life and health because all of these fake pseudo or quasi meat companies jam their products, their finished products, their fake meat products are full to the brim with water, or they try to at least simulate the amount of water that's in regular meat. Simulated water, right, is simulated hydration and simulated life for these products. And I say, why simulate it when you can have the real thing? So I'll ask you again, after knowing what you know now about hydration and water and life, is meat really dead? Let me know down in the comments. Now, what I don't want you to do is come at me in the comments about beef jerky or dried fruit, okay? So much the same way that water is both the matrix of life and the solvent of life, it nevertheless has the potential to kill you, and it carries within it death. In the same way, or in much the same fashion, dehydration, when rapid and intentional, right, has the ability to preserve and not just to kill or to be the process of death. And then, analogously, human beings, we carry in us both this life instinct, eros, this hydration, and this death instinct, thanatos, dehydration. Okay, so don't let that distract you from the main point.